Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Administrator Issues and Updates on May 12th, 2026. We'll start off with County Administrator Schmidt calling the roll for us.
Thank you, Chair Roberts. Commissioner West will be here shortly. He's not here right now. Roll call, Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Chair Roberts.
Here. All right, thank you, Gary. I'll now recess as the Board of County Commissioners, convene as the Water Environment Service Board of Directors. Gary, you want to introduce our first agenda
Yes,
item?
thank you. This is an advisory board appointment for the Water Environment Services Board. Andrew, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chair, the Water Environment Services Advisory Committee has one open seat for Development Community Representative. Recruitment opened in February of 2026 and closed in March of 2026. One application was received. The recommendation is as follows. David James to a first term ending December of 2028. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do any of the directors have any questions? Not, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint David James to the Advisory Committee.
Second.
Director Schrader has moved to appoint David James to the West Advisory Committee. Director Helm has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you please call the poll?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Andrew. I'll now adjourn as West Board of Directors and convene as a Development Agency Board. Gary?
Next is an advisory board appointment for the Development Agency Board. Andrew, would you please go ahead?
Mr. Chair, the Development Agency Budget Committee currently has two openings. Recruitment opened in April of 2026 and closed in April of 2026. Two applications were received. The recommendation is as follows. Mikhail Conley to a first term ending June of 2029. The board could select other candidates or require further recruitment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? My directors, and may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Mikhail Connolly to the Budget Committee.
I will second that.
All right, thank you, ladies. Director Helm has moved to appoint McCall Conley to the Development Agency Budget Committee. Commissioner Schrader, Director Schrader has seconded that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk, will you call the poll for us?
Director Savas.
Aye.
Director Schrader.
Aye.
Director Helm.
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll adjourn as the Development Agency Board of and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners. Gary?
Thank you. Next is Business Oregon Opportunity Zone 2.0 application for designation of qualifying census tracts. Presenting is Dan Johnson, Director of Transportation and Development, and there is a memo in your packet. Go ahead, please, Dan.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair Roberts and Commissioners. Essentially, just a little history here. July of 2025, the federal government enacted HB 1, establishing what they call Opportunity Zones 2.0. These are federal designations for economically distressed census tracts that are designed to attract private investment. We go through this effort about every 10 years, and essentially, under this program, investors can reinvest their capital gains from qualified opportunity funds, receiving a significant benefit, essentially a reduction on those capital gains taxes they were going to be paying. This happens every 10 years. Basically, the state governor selects or puts forward to the federal government approximately 25% of the eligible census tracts around the state for qualification by the federal U.S. Treasury. And what you'll see is that there are two exhibits here. One is Exhibit A, or Attachment A. These are the current census tracts for Opportunity Zone 1.0. These are going away. And if you look at Attachment B, these are the new zones that are proposed. There's a better written description in your materials of those areas, but essentially they are, I can just read them out loud. One is the North Clackamas Industrial Area. Second is, which essentially is the northern border near Milwaukee Expressway and I-205 to the Clackamas River. Second is the Clackamas area, which is south of Sunnyside Road, with Mather Road as the southern border and 82nd Avenue and as the western, and King Road to the north. Oh, pardon me. This is basically, this area includes Kaiser Hospital and a large portion of undevelopable area. There's a park up there, et cetera, but it does include that hospital hub. Secondly is the Clackamas urban area west of 82nd, which is between Linwood Avenue and 82nd Avenue, King Road to the north, Harmony Road to the south. Next is North 82nd Avenue corridor, which extends north from Sunnyside Road to the county line between 82nd and I-205. And last but definitely not least is Jenny's Lodge area, which is between McLaughlin Boulevard and Oakfield Road. I want to highlight the fact that when you look at attachment A and attachment B, there are some that are coming off. So there were some previously qualifying census tracts in Oregon City that no longer qualify. So those will be removed when these 2.0 census tracts go forward for consideration by the federal government. Some key dates, the applications opened April 13th of this year. We are here today to seek your authorization to put forward the following areas for consideration. The application closes, though, May 22nd, so the timeline's pretty quick. I also wanted to highlight that our role within these opportunity zones is pretty minimal. We basically, our role is simply limited to submitting the census tracts for consideration to the governor. By comparison, just so you get an idea, there's about 200 qualified census tracts across the state of Oregon, and about 52 of those get certified and submitted by the governor for consideration by the federal government. That's about it. I'd be happy to answer any, one more thing, you're seeing an order to these. The order to these were predicated on a couple different things, one of which was, do we have plans and or interests or efforts in that area? And two was the ability for redevelopment to really occur within those areas, hence the priority listing that you see below. We are here for a recommendation from the board to submit these. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thanks, Dan. Commissioner Seves has a question.
Yeah, I got a few here, so I'll take them one at a time. So this map here, the new map, there's no legend that indicates what the shading means. So I see areas that are darker and areas that are lighter.
The shading are the tracks that are the census tracts that qualify.
Is what?
The shaded areas are the census tracts that are qualifying, that can qualify for the program.
Well, I see grid. I see the lines, right? So I'm assuming that all of those are the census tracts. But why is, for example, on the east side of the freeway, where that red arrow is currently on the screen, that darker, why is that darker than the lower area?
Forest.
I don't know, I see 5 red arrows.
By urban, I think he's referring
Yeah.
to, for example.
Oh, that darker area, that's that open space tract that Mount Tabor's at.
Yeah, Tabor, not
It's
Smart.
undeveloped. That's why it's
Okay,
darker
okay.
in nature.
All right,
Yeah.
all right. So really, all we're looking at are the lines. There's no other indication. Okay.
There's no other information on that. That's why we added the verbiage within the report to define the boundaries of each area, because the mapping that was provided really wasn't of
Okay,
high
so
quality.
my comment is that often transit agencies will use the census tracts for determining areas of poverty and so on. So I don't know, that's maybe something to look at if something's going to fall off, something doesn't go on. So I know that's not why we're here today, but I just want to acknowledge that because of the change. The other thing I want to point out is that the area I just spoke to, at least along Old 82nd Avenue, north of Highway 212, where the recovery center is going to go. Okay, so that area has very little, if any, frankly, I would say, I'm going to use the word modern here, only to say that, multifamily housing as opposed to very tired multifamily housing. So the area north of 212 along Old 82nd Avenue and that in the freeway where the recovery center is going, there's a lot of single-family homes, and then there are some, I would say, very tired, dilapidated multifamily. Seems appropriate that for an opportunity zone, that might be a place to look, as opposed to an area like Jennings Lodge, where you've got Rothy Road, where you have a lot of modern, I'm going to use the word modern again, less dilapidated or not even dilapidated at all, multifamily housing. My concern is that sometimes when development occurs or it's being targeted, if there's a redevelopment, the price of the housing becomes a heck of a lot higher. Right, so the old terminology was anti-displacement concerns, right, about development that occurs. So the people that live there, their income level, okay, is probably not going to change simply because it's now an opportunity zone. So what happened is that Portland, in the old model, Portland used those census tracts and they redeveloped it, and then all the people that live there, again, their incomes didn't change, ended up moving to the east side of Multnomah County, okay? And then, so they were artificially, I would say, there's a word for it, when you're moved from one area to another. Displaced, thank you, yeah. So they were artificially displaced because of economics. So that'd be my concern, is that what do we think ourselves, evaluating all these, is right for urban development or redevelopment on an opportunity zone that does not impact some of the low-income folks that live there today?
The census tract qualifies, we don't determine the boundaries of those, number one. We don't determine the data within those, number two. These are only the ones that qualify based off the census data that was collected most recently. So you have, and these are the only ones that are viable for the program based off the census data associated with each track. The discussion that you're having, that you're presenting about gentrification and movement of people, and that is a deeper discussion. This simply is a discussion and a tool for reinvestment. As you said, and you looked at the information below, we feel that some areas, based on the priority that we gave them, have lesser redevelopment potential. So, for example, Jennings Lodge area. I mean, there's a little bit here and there, but there isn't a lot of redevelopment potential in that particular piece of area, in that area of the county, versus, for example, North Clackamas industrial area, where we're trying to incentivize and expand on industrial opportunities that are there. So, if you're asking me, does the placement of this boundary create development that displaces people? I can't answer that. I can identify the fact that it allows for development opportunities for certain investors that are looking to develop in those areas.
Yeah, so when the request here, I'm just reading the packet, first sentence, request board approval to submit applications to Business Oregon for the 5 eligible census tracts. Yep. Would we not want to evaluate those 5 available census tracts and say, these are right, we agree, maybe we shouldn't do these?
On what criteria?
On the criteria of would we perhaps be creating a affordable issue where people could be economically displaced?
So when you look at the priorities that are there, the priorities primarily are trying to focus around, for example, number one, the industrial development
Business.
and the business opportunities that are down there. Number two, Clackamas and the hospital component, so they're less residential in nature.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yep.
And then three, that urban area west of 82nd, Linwood, there is some residential in there, but not as much as like the Jennings Lodge corridor. There's probably more resident. That's probably the highest residential, I'm assuming, at all 5 of these. So no, we haven't done a assessment of every one of these 5 zones to see which one has more development opportunity or possibility for displacement. But what you're seeing in the priority list above you that we're presenting to you today essentially takes some of that into consideration with the commercial or industrial nature of the areas versus the residential.
Yeah, I'm going to use another term here that's been used for years. So number 5, the Jennings Lodge area has a lot of naturally affordable housing. It's currently affordable, right, in its current state. And so I'm wondering, it doesn't have an industrial aspect to it, really doesn't have a commercial strip, right? It has got the commercial strip, the C3, right? But
has multifamily.
and has some multifamily there as well, but that's naturally occurring affordable housing. And I would want to be really careful about somehow disrupting that, right?
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Whereas along the 212 corridor, absolutely, right? You know, what you got pictures between east of 205, south of 212, that's a natural, right? There's not a lot of naturally affordable housing there. Some,
Yeah. I mean, if the board desires, we can remove one of the zone. We can remove, for example, we can remove 5 from the recommendation.
that's what I'm trying to convey here. Is that have we evaluated that from that lens? Like if you brought in the housing authority or some folks from housing, would they agree or disagree?
No one would agree or disagree with the census tract data that it qualifies.
No, not the data.
But
the request for those to submit applications for those 5 areas.
We haven't had that discussion, but my assumption would be that they would be looking for any opportunity that could provide additional financing options for the housing models or methods they're trying to propose.
I made my point.
Commissioner Hill.
So, thank you, Dan. Well, this is a really short window. Why is the window so short? Is the
We got the governor has tasked Business Oregon with collecting data, statewide data from all the entities, and that's the timeline they provided.
And so, does it? I guess I'm just confused whether it gives. So you're only giving the information to the governor,
Correct.
or to Business Oregon, right? So it's not going out to the public for. Okay.
And then their Business Oregon will work through all the submittals statewide to figure out which ones the governor wishes to push forward to the federal government.
Okay, and then on the second map, the updated map with the crosshatch there, is the area there near Camp Withicombe, the brownfield area, is that included in that? I know this is a really high 30,000 foot level, but is that included in that?
Does not look.
Give me 1 second. Yes.
It is?
Yep.
Okay,
is it?
is it that kind of the triangle area there? Because that's what I was trying to determine if that was part of it too.
So correct. If you see the phase 1 of the Sunrise, the red line that goes
Yeah.
east of 205.
Yeah.
It is that triangle, generally that triangled area and areas to the east of that
Okay.
are right there by the word Clackamas, on the end of the word Clackamas.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Right. Commissioner West, go ahead.
Thank you. Am I on? I'm on. I mean, considering where Oregon is in not really being appealing to investors, and we've kind of taken a position of we want to use all the tools in the toolbox that we can have to have to be more appealing to the individuals that take that risk and invest in our communities. Can you, and I apologize because I was on another call and I'm a little bit late to the meeting,
Go
so
ahead.
I apologize if I am going to ask a question that was already answered before I got here. What is it about this specific tool that would make these designated areas appealing to an investor to put some of their capital into it? What is it specifically within this tool that is unique? And I think that Commissioner Helm asks a very obvious question: why is it even likely with such a small turnaround time and with such a small timeline?
Speaking at the 30,000 foot level, essentially what it does is it provides an investor who may have received capital gains off a previous sale of property to reinvest in areas such as these for development.
Mm-hmm.
And if they invest and they own that asset for certain periods of time, they reduce their capital gains liability on their
Okay.
tax burden.
Right.
Okay.
So when in the development community, it is one of a number of tools that are out there to essentially assist in stacking capital and making development more interesting and more viable from a pro forma basis.
Okay.
It is not a program that we implement. It's done at the federal level through U.S. Treasury and tax. but it is one that we advertise as many of our neighbors have similar zones. And to ensure Clackamas County is competitive in that environment, we highlight it as a possibility when we get inquiries from certain projects and certain developers. Again, regarding the timeline, I can't speak to it. That was the timeline that we were given, so.
And they're relatively considered low-income areas. They fit within some low-income poverty rate
They're
threshold.
That is correct.
Right?
That
All
is
of
correct.
these do.
That is correct.
And I guess Commissioner Salvis, your concern is, I mean, we want to address those concerns and issues, but your concern is that Jennings Lodge is still relatively stable quality housing at a lower purchase price already? Or are you or your displacement? I'm kind of trying to understand your concern with looking to revitalize that area.
Well, I'll just tell you what I'm probably gonna do. I'm either gonna, if we move forward with this today, I'm probably gonna vote no. What I would like to see is actually have our housing authority people come here and say, and evaluate this, because this is business Oregon. This is, and so that's a separate part of the state. You have the governor's office who's trying to push housing and affordable housing. That's a big hot issue.
Yeah.
So would I want to select areas where there's a greater potential, but there's nothing in here under Business Oregon that says they will build housing. It seems to me from reading it, this is about commercial developments, existing buildings, so on. It doesn't say anything about housing. There's not one word that says housing in here.
But wouldn't you argue, Commissioner, that we need all economic development of all kinds in this state
Sure,
right now that's
sure.
super lagging the rest of the nation?
Sure, but I think there's prime areas where, again, like where the recovery center is, I think that's a
Yeah.
prime area where the housing is so deteriorated nearby, dilapidated, it makes sense to focus on that.
What's the timeline on having that done, Commissioner? Because we are already on a short timeline to utilize the program.
I'm just saying, it's not clear to me that there's been any kind of other departments that, again, would want to have a goal of trying to retain naturally affordable housing. So I don't see any means of addressing that in here. The word's not even in here.
I want all economic development, especially if we can do it and have another tool in the toolbox to do it. It's like, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Whatever that, I don't know why you even say this, but. Yeah.
We're proposing, again, it's whatever the board would like to put forward for the board governor to consider. Do I think removing Jennings Lodge is like a make or break for the list? No, I do not. We know the areas. You look at the other areas that are on that map. For example, we have urban renewal plans in some of those areas. We've got other tools in some of those areas. We just did the sunrise work and the infrastructure work for the corridor work. Again, it goes back to the numbering that you see by those areas. Those are our priorities for the 5 districts that or 5 areas that we are considering moving forward. I can't guarantee you that she will accept a number or any of them to put forward for consideration. I would assume they would. I would assume there will be at least 2 or 3 of these that probably go forward. Do I think all 5 will? I think that we'd be hard pressed to get that, but I can't opine on that.
This might be a dumb question. Why are they all urban in nature? Why isn't rural Clackamas County, or can they be considered for these type of zones?
There are some that are rural, but they're so far rural that for example, they're out, just because of the census data, they're out in by federal forest land.
Okay.
And things like that. So
Okay.
if there were rural areas, we'll back up. The cities are also looking at this. So our rural cities are also looking at it and possibly pushing them forward. We're not aware of any city, except for Estacada, I think it was Estacada, is looking to put one forward as well.
Okay.
But the ones that we would have that would fall on that really wouldn't fall into that ability to redevelop, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schrader.
So here's what I'm trying to understand. This is really a business development tool.
Correct.
And based on census data. And all these are our tracks that would indicate that they fit the criteria of not being maybe abjectly poverty, but an opportunity to introduce more businesses there. And when Paul talks about housing, I'm seeing development happening where there's housing on top, for example, of commercial enterprises. But a lot of those commercial enterprises are things like, at least I see in my neighborhood, they're clothing stores, there's, lots of restaurants, things of that sort. So would those kinds of businesses in these urban areas qualify if they wanted to expand or have something there? Or is it really just manufacturing? I guess what I'm trying to think that I don't think housing with some of the development I've been seeing in my neighborhood, it's whether or not the kind of business or sector, what do you want to have land there? So is it open to kind of everything that might be conducive to increased housing as well?
Yeah, you are getting down into the specifics of certain plans and
Right.
objectives and things. This has nothing to do, this is simply a designation to assist in reducing tax burden for the development community. So
Okay,
it has
okay.
no, say like maybe we've done areas that have like certain criteria for floor area ratios or retail
Right.
in the city. Doesn't speak to that at all. All it is tax burden and reduction of capital gains tax.
Yeah. So I guess what I would say that even if we can designate it, but it may be that because of the market or whatever we're trying to attract, it may not fit in that area. But I am seeing, as I said, the kind of development I'm seeing surrounding our neighborhoods has done a very good job of having housing as well as, again, other businesses. I'm not sure, are there any areas here, for example, that would allow like a major industrial use expand to as well?
I'm sorry, that what?
Is there any, we're on this map, would there be an area, and I should know this, but guess I'm just tired today, but where on this map would there be an opportunity for some of the, maybe large, we know we don't have enough large acreages, right?
There's still enormous opportunity on that whole eastern, if you look at the map down.
Yeah, show me here.
This is
Yeah.
Highway 212, essentially it's that
Right.
southern industrial area. We've got a number of large-scale
Well, that's kind of
grow
what,
lodges is going in there in a number of different sites. You're seeing site consolidation and site repurposing. We've got large industrial going in on areas that used to be aggregate sites and things like that that are being reclaimed. And so again, this is, just when you're stacking capital from certain aspects,
Okay.
this is just one thing that gets considered in that totality to build a pro forma for a project. And it's if you're lucky enough to build in one of these zones, and I'm investing from another sale, I get a little bit of a tax break for the capital gains
Yeah.
tax. That's all it is.
so I would be okay with this, but I would also, I understand what Paul's saying, but there are models out there. Doesn't mean that it is going to be an opportunity zone that's going to actually be used. It seems to me as if it's really going to be around that, more than likely that corridor. But it might give some of those other areas maybe an opportunity for redevelopment if you wanted an enterprise that would create jobs, maybe not manufacturing, but I'm assuming retail business services, for example, like Cruise Way. Okay, that's one of our most prolific areas. It's not industrial, it's got trees, it's beautifully done and developed. And I've seen things, so I'm getting into the nitty-gritty of the design. So I would just say I'm okay with all of it because it may open up different design opportunities in some of those census areas, because you're not going to put you're not going to put a whole industrial park in the middle of, that housing. But there may be areas that you could really do some beautiful other opportunities.
And you're correct. It does not
Yeah.
circumvent community plans, land use plans,
Right.
landscaping requirements, development requirements, any of those elements at all. Yep.
So,
Yeah, just a quick comment, and then I'll go to Commissioner West and Commissioner Savas. I think that first and foremost, economic development, the Business Oregon for Federal Opportunity Zone, I think you really nailed the head on it, is that capital gains for these large investors is huge. And taking those dollars, having that tax relief, reinvesting them with a commitment longer term can really boost economically development and do the things. And I just know from my conversation with a lot of these big investors, it's this capital gain stuff is killing them. So it is redevelopment. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I think that they still have to go through all the processes, just as you mentioned. And, I am in support of this. I think it is an opportunity. I think that the question I wanted to ask you, I saw your timeline is pretty tight. It actually said May 19th. What happens is if this doesn't move forward on the 19th?
That's the deadline that Business Oregon gave us for the submittal. My assumption is if we don't get zones submitted for consideration, that we've missed that deadline and we will not be considered for consideration.
Okay.
Yeah, so with that, that's my concern is that we would miss out. So, so I would encourage us to move forward. But Commissioner West, go ahead and then.
Yeah, I wanted to answer part of Commissioner Schrader's question. It is common to have real estate use the opportunity zones, and there's industrial, retail, that includes restaurants, retail stores, healthcare facilities, infrastructure, energy projects, telecommunications. It can be, real estate can also include hotels, commercial office spaces. So it is very broad in what it can, in what it could be invested in, what sector it could be invested in, which is great because it kind of allows that market piece to take effect there and what will work in different parts of these zones. We are just on a limited timeline, and so I would agree with Chair Roberts to move forward with as presented. I think this could be a beneficial tool. It looks like that if you stay invested, it gets a better tax saving over time, but after 10 years on your appreciation, you have no taxes on that after you've made the investment. So I think that can be very appealing. We need all the tools we can get. So I would encourage the board to move forward.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Salas.
Yeah, just one thing that Commissioner Schrader brought up, and that was, they can build nice, beautiful housing, sure, as an option. I was going to say that, from what I already witnessed here around the region, here also in Clackamas County, when that occurs, if you actually displace people or affect people that are currently housed today, let's just say they're paying $800 a month, the new rents for something that's nice and fancy like that are probably, there's no guarantee it's going to be affordable. It's market rate. So what's market rate today at $800, and after that development, it's probably market rate that's north of $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking about, is that those people, their income isn't going to change. They're just going to be forced to try to find more affordable housing elsewhere. So all I'm asking for is concurrence or input from our housing folks about, is there a section or two that we ought to not include of the 5? So I see where it's prime. I'm all for that economic development, but I think there's areas that are ripe for this, and it's the right thing to do. I see areas where our citizens that are barely making it are going to be vulnerable if there is indeed investment there.
There's a high likelihood that it's not multi-housing or hotels or commercial real estate that will be the investment in Jennings Lodge. It could be a restaurant. It could be some other sector completely that's appropriate, and maybe housing. And housing supply does help bring down costs. We just don't even have enough housing, period. We only have a week to make this decision as a board. And if we have to go back to staff and go back through this again, I don't know if we have that luxury, if we want to go as presented or not.
All right.
And I hear what you're, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, Martha.
I didn't mean to. So here's what I think. Designate it, but we can involve the housing people in those areas. This isn't going to preclude, your point is well taken. Because, I know, like where I live, it's, some of those apartments are like crazily expensive. But we could include the housing people should that area become an area where businesses want to locate to make sure that the housing, in other words, if we go ahead with this now, I don't think it's going to preclude, does that make sense? Taking your market analysis into consideration, and I think Milwaukee's been a good example, don't you? I think they did some really good development that doesn't seem over the top. You
Well,
know,
what they've done,
it's
what they
affordable.
have done has been market rate, and then what we
we
have
could-
done in Milwaukee has been affordable housing, right?
Right, and so we could, that's kind of what I'm thinking, you know, we're not going to exclude them, but if we move ahead now, at least it'd give it an opportunity to evaluate, you know, and then, I mean, I don't want to displace people. I don't think that's going to be our goal at all, so.
It's going to be, it could be a consequence, that's my point. It's a consequence, it's not a goal.
Well, I think that if we're aware of it, I think we can manage it in a way where, you know, yeah, that we can displace, because I don't think anybody in Milwaukee got really displaced, and I think we could have managed it that way, so. I'm okay with it, but I'm glad we're getting it on the record. Okay, a legislative record, what the concerns would be there, and that it would kind of have to be what we did remember when we did the urban renewal district in,
The good old days?
yeah, but it was the poor area of the county, what was it?
Well, they are in the blighted areas of the county. So the most recent one's the North Clackamas revitalization area.
Yeah, that's
off
the one.
Johnson Creek corridor.
That's the one that we did, and so we could potentially, why couldn't this be a tool with that kind of a notion, like a revitalization? And I don't think it displaced people that did infrastructure, did roads, it did potholes. We got them off of septic tanks, if I recall. It was very successful.
That was the primary reason, was to stabilize housing in that district.
Yeah, so anything we do on an opportunity, so depending on the area, we could make that a clear part of a policy depending on where it lands. That's what I would say.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Helm.
I'm inclined to just move forward on this, but maybe do it for tracks 1 through 4 and leave track 5 off.
Okay.
Would that make you happy, Commissioner? I see what you're saying about the Jennings Lodge area. I think there's a lot of other land available there, but I think a motion that would eliminate that portion of it, we could just move forward and do it that way. Just an idea.
Go ahead.
We're close, but I would move forward with all 5. I think
Would you?
we just need economic development. I don't want to be too picky here. But that's just me. We'll see how the board goes. But I'm on the other end on 5. Yeah.
Well, I think we're at a point, is there a motion?
Do we need a motion? You need a motion, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, you do.
All right, I'll do this. I move to authorize the submission of applications to Business Oregon for Federal Opportunity Zone 2.0 designation for the 5 tracks listed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Helm. Has moved to authorize the submission of the application to the Business Oregon for Federal Opportunity Zone 2.0 designation for the 5 tracks as listed. And Commissioner West has seconded it. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, clerk, will you please call the poll?
Commissioner Schrader,
Aye.
Commissioner Savas,
No.
Commissioner West,
Aye.
Commissioner Helm,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. So
Gary?
we'll report back. We'll report back to you and let you know which ones were actually selected by the federal government.
How long
right.
does that take?
It'll take some time. I'm guessing it'll be later this year.
Oh,
So they could be like, you get 1 track.
Exactly.
I know, I know.
You get track 1, so. Yep.
all right.
I'll pick the right one. All right, Gary, what do you have next?
Okay, thank you. Next is, as you know, Commissioners, Budget Committee for the county meets in 2 weeks, the last week of May, May 26th through May 29th or longer. You have received invitations to 2 pretty significant community events. 3, only 2 are significant. 1 is pretty okay. Sorry, editorializing. 3 events that I would like your direction today, if you would like me to adjust the budget week schedule or say no to these community events. Wednesday, May 27th is a grand opening of the VULA Affordable Housing Development that we were instrumental, Clackamas County, in helping develop through our Supportive Housing Services Program and Affordable Housing Bond. That is you will be hearing elected official budget presentations that morning from 8 a.m. to noon. So that's what you'll miss. I'm more concerned about that day. You must get through all department presentations that day because you have a public hearing that night. And you cannot have the public hearing until you finish all the department presentations. Thursday, May 28th at 10:30 a.m. is the groundbreaking of Tumwater Village. That is significant. You've worked on that effort for decades. The Grand Ronde tribe has possession of that land, and they're having their final main grand opening event. That is your budget deliberation day. So you could potentially take a break, but that means I doubt you'll finish on Thursday, so you'll have to meet then that Friday and perhaps Saturday, which is certainly, we've given you plenty of advance notice. Thursday, May 28th at 6 p.m. is the Clackamas City's dinners. I'm not as concerned about that, but they need a head count if you're going to eat or not. So I just have to give advance notice of that. So I do need your direction today, please. If you would like to attend one or all of these events, then I'll readjust the budget week schedule. My opinion, respectfully, the most important thing you do as a Board of County Commissioners is approve the governing bodies, the budget for the governing body, how you're going to spend the public's money. So you should probably say no to everything, no matter how significant they are. However, out of the 10 members of the Budget Committee, 6 of you must be present to make a decision. So technically, 4 of you could be gone at these events, and the other 5 public members and 1 of you will make decisions. I'm being a bit sarcastic there. So I just need your advice, please, on what you'd like to do so I can plan ahead for the budget week, please.
All right, Commissioner West, go ahead.
These are tough. One of them's personal to me because I was involved in it as a city councilor. One of the final decisions I made as a city councilor with that housing project was a big deal to help get off the ground. And then we've watched it and made some decisions as a board to help get it there in Wilsonville. Tumwater is a huge, we might be able to still make the dinner just because it's at 6 p.m. That's the easiest. However, it's a very intense budget cycle that we've already put a lot of attention into. So I'm going to begrudgingly say we're probably not, I don't think we should be available, but those 2 are super hard to not be present at, especially how personal the Wilsonville one was for me throughout my tenure as a city councilor and as commissioner.
Martha, go ahead.
I do think we need to prioritize the budget, folks, because that's really our job. But I would ask Gary if we could have something from the chair or from the commission, someone there read something and tell them why we can't be there because it's our budget week and we have to be here in order to do the business of the county. But as long as we had a representative there with thoughts and with everybody, and then I would also suggest that we send maybe personal notes to the appropriate people, all of us, about thanking them for all they do, and that we're doing the budget of the county to make sure that these kinds of projects can move forward. What do you think of that?
Absolutely can do a letter from the entire board. We can have a staff member attend as your representative. Absolutely. And all of these organizations already know it's your budget week. And
Okay.
they understand, but we can definitely do those to accommodate.
I think we have to show them a presence. And we could even do a video if you wanted to, but I don't know if they have the infrastructure to like have us virtually standing there saying something. But so we don't have, it's not that we're ignoring it, but we physically, I think it's important that we do the budget. So, I don't know.
Sounds good. All right, Commissioner Savis.
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Schrader's point, and the budget is the most important responsibility, and I can't think of a budget cycle that there wasn't something happening that we would miss out on.
Yeah.
So this is normal. And same goes for cities that can't attend, or other jurisdictions that can't attend one of our meetings because, can't attend, we're having budget that Monday night or Tuesday night or whatever it may be. So I think we all understand. I don't want to just diminish it down that is simply a photo op, but if they know and we communicate with them that we wanted to be there, they know that we just didn't ignore them, but we want to be there, but we're dedicated to the work of the budget of the county. So sending something to those would, I think help that along.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I think sending someone in our stead is the best thing to do, along with a letter, and let them know, regretfully, we can't be there. This is, the budget is extremely important.
All right. I concur, so you got your direction?
I have direction. I'm not changing the budget week schedule, and we will write a letter from the board for both events and have a staff representative attend and maybe ask if we can read the letter at the event as well.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thanks. What's next, Gary?
All right, next, review of your board business meeting agenda for this Thursday, May 14th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Chair Roberts will be at an Oregon housing or a business
Okay.
tour. So Vice Chair Schrader, you will
Can you
chair the
chair it?
meeting.
Okay.
The agenda is public communication, a presentation, the monthly business spotlight, this time on solder timber, a consent agenda for the Board of County Commissioners and Water Environment Services. If you have any questions on any item, if you please let me know, I will answer it for you or have staff in the room on Thursday to answer it for you as well. All right, next, Commissioner Helm would like to share with all of you, discuss with you a potential electric bike safety policy for the county. Go ahead, please, Commissioner.
Thank you. And this is in response to some constituent letters we've been getting about e-bike safety. The City of Happy Valley is in the process of public engagement and trying to get people involved. And they have a real big issue in Happy Valley. There's a lot of kids, not just kids, there's adults that are, because it's very hilly, people use the e-bikes a lot, scooters. There was a T-bone the other night. A kid came down a hill and just T-boned a Tesla, just like boom. Kid flew off and was fine, got up and walked away, but in the interest of trying to prevent bigger accidents, they're trying to get ahead of it. I am not familiar with state e-bike laws and whether there are helmet rules or age-appropriate things. You might be more familiar with this. I don't know. But what I want to say is that because there's so many unincorporated areas throughout Happy Valley, there's little islands and stuff, that I think that we should think about adopting whatever ordinance they put in place so that we are all on the same page and that it's very consistent. So it's just the beginning of the conversation. I just want to bring it to your attention because I think it's something. There's also issues out in the Damascus area in one of the legacy neighborhood areas where kids are riding like those little, they're not motocross motorcycles, they're even smaller than that. And they're speeding up and down the streets. And there was one that was hit the other day, too. An Uber driver was out there and hit a kid. So I think we should get ahead of it so that we have some rules in place for the kids and the adults to follow. So I don't know if anybody has any experience with other rules on e-bikes, but I just want to make sure that we address it based on what's happening in my backyard.
Yeah, so I just might add that Steve Campbell, I saw that too, has been working on that. And it does seem to be an issue countywide, and I believe even statewide. And I might also maybe ask Mr. Williams if he could also see kind of legislatively. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's working on something, whether a legislative concept, to kind of addresses the whole issue. Obviously, we have the state police in our county and a number of other cities. And I think most importantly is we're all reading from the same playbook.
That's my point. And also that there's risk involved by not having something in place, because if someone does get hurt, killed, and then we are liable for not having a policy in place, although we talk about who will enforce the policy, right? There's always the enforcement process. But of course, the city of Happy Valley has their own dedicated police department. But for the rest of the county, it's just, if we have a policy in place, it might make it easier.
Yeah, might be quicker.
Yeah,
right.
to address, yeah.
All right, I'll go to Gary and then to Ben.
Yes, this was in the state legislature this past session. It's already been approved. A powered micromobility devices and motor-assisted scooters, which includes e-bikes, was added to the Oregon Vehicle Code, requirements and regulations for all cities and counties. So that was done for us, that we must implement. City of Happy Valley is refining it and doing their own in addition to what the
Yes.
state is requiring.
Yes.
So the request today is, do you want to have a policy session, commissioners? That is the request, and we'll come back to you with all of this data.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and let me get to Ben.
Yeah, that
next.
was House Bill 4007. and I don't know a lot about e-bikes. I think there's different classes. As a nurse, I've seen a lot of these injuries with youth in neuro units. I've been on those units, and I'm pro helmet. I think, I don't like too much government intervention, but the nursing side of me is like helmets and seatbelts should be required, because often we all end up paying for that if you need those medical services for not wearing a helmet. Wear your helmet, public. It's like Nurse West, Commissioner West says, wear your helmet and your seatbelt. But I think that some of that legislation also regulates like age to use a powered bike like this. I think it classifies like how fast they can go. There's some other things, but I'm totally open to a policy session. I don't know how we enforce any of this, but it is, especially like West Lynn has a lot of hills too, so it's not the only place in Clackamas County
No,
that is like
it's
super
happening
hilly.
everywhere. Yes.
Yeah, where you can just be whipping around and you're going faster than a pedal bike
And-
often, if so.
You seldom see a regular bike anymore. It's
a lot of e-bikes now. Yeah.
It's a lot of e-bikes.
All right, Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, I read some of that language, so it's based on the wattage, I think 1,000 watts and below
yeah.
is one thing, and there is a speed limit, so where do they travel, for example? Can they travel on the road at a certain wattage? They are allowed to be on the street, apparently, in traffic, whereas the other less powered ones. So anyhow, I think that's important that it's already been done to some degree, but I also say I have heard a lot about people whipping around on trails where people are walking.
Yep.
And I think the hilly aspect of it is that if you make it up, the speed down becomes far, far more than it would be on flatland. So I don't know. There's been talk on the trolley trail, for example, that there ought to be a speed limit. There's been this back and forth. We've heard it at NCPRD on the DAC. We've heard it, and outside of that as well. So I think it'd be interesting to watch what Happy Valley does, but I think doing something is better than doing nothing.
Thank you.
So
And,
I support a policy session. Do you?
Commissioner Schrader.
I do too, because one of the worst experiences I've ever had actually happened in my neighborhood. There were young women hurtling down a street and made a turn, and there were two of them on it. I think they had helmets on, but I remember driving into my driveway and hearing this screaming and it was awful. And we had to have, the ambulance came, and the youngster, I think, ended up with a fractured skull. And that's just a life-changing kind of an accident too. So I'm all for regulating them. I see kids in my neighborhood going down. If I was a parent, I wouldn't let my kid have one at this point after what I saw. I'd just say, hey, you pedal, but nothing else, because they are like cars, and it's just too dangerous.
And I will add, it is a bit controversial, because there's a lot of parents out there that are so glad their kids are not at home on a screen.
Yeah.
They're outside, they're playing, they're doing something physical. I mean, so I understand that, but there also needs to be rules that the kids need to follow. And I think that the police or whoever is out there needs to have a little bit of teeth so they can actually do something.
Enforce something?
So they don't right now.
Oh, I just say, get them a real bike. It's good
Those are no
exercise.
fun.
So-
Yeah, you have to work at
Yeah.
it.
So it sounds like we have a consensus to do a policy session. Gary and I might suggest is that we bring it up with the mayors at our mayor's meeting, and
that's a
probably
good
have a discussion, and also with the tri-county chair of kind of seeing what the other counties are doing. So those might be two other things we could follow up for our policy session. So
Will do.
that, do you have anything else, Gary?
We'll schedule a policy session in the upcoming weeks. Thank you.
Right.
All right, the final item today is Commissioner Communications.
All right, Martha,
Okay.
you're up.
Well, I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today. I know Diane and I were going to be at the Hamlet tonight at 7, okay? But what I really wanted to talk about, it's, this primary's coming up, and everybody's a little on edge. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about what's been a group that I've been involved with, and actually has asked Ben and I to speak to them. And it's a group called Braver Angels. And its mission is courageous citizenship. And the challenge that they have on their website is this: our country is more divided than ever, with too many of us isolated from those who hold different views. This division damages our communities, disrupts our families, and stops us working together for the common good. We believe our nation can survive and thrive for every American who contributes to the effort. Where we go from here is up to us. So this is really what they do with their mission. We inspire and equip Americans to practice courageous citizenship across political differences through skill building, convening, and collaborative action. We state our views freely and fully without fear. We treat people who disrespect us with honesty, dignity, and respect. We welcome opportunities to engage those with whom we disagree. We believe all of us have blind spots and none of us are not worth talking to. We seek to disagree accurately, avoiding exaggeration and stereotypes. We look for the common ground where it exists, and if possible, find ways to work together. We believe that in disagreements, both sides share and learn. In Braver Angels, neither side is teaching the other or giving feedback on how to think or say things differently. And I think more than ever, seeing what's even happening this election cycle, we need to keep this philosophy and our thoughts together in this direction. I've seen negative campaigning out there. I oftentimes get myself into hot water because I don't support my party all the time. It's just not what I've done. I seem to manage my way through it and thread that needle. But one of the reasons I'm so supportive of this board right now is because of the tenor of how we work together. Craig, you run a great meeting. Paul, you always are a detail guy. Diana, a businesswoman. Ben, you're our wild man with the ideas that are courageous and different and put them into place. So I just want to let people know from my perspective, I would very much like to see this board stay together as one board. We're working well. We like each other. I guess, Gary, I get to make these statements right on the dais here.
You may as an elected official,
Yeah,
yes.
this is not to disparage anyone who's running or to point out things like that. For example, again, I'd like to see this board together, but I'm also giving a party for a young man who's a Democrat on Saturday because he's decent, he's kind, he's got a health background, and yes, he's a Democrat. But I would do it for him no matter what because I think he's a good, decent person. And we have learned on this board to have our disagreements, but by and large, frankly, we have managed very well to remain nonpartisan because most of what we do is nonpartisan, okay? It's mostly sticks, roads, public safety, economic development. We're the social service safety net for every city in this county because they're not big enough to have that kind of infrastructure. The housing we've done in the last few years, the recovery center, has been phenomenal work, and I think all of us would agree that, again, we are so effective together that is the message I would like to get out today in these contentious times, that I'm a member of Braver Angels. I commit to them, and I would suggest anybody look them up. They have folks here. They have, a group here. It's national. But if we start living by these, or continue, let's not say start, but if we continue to live by these kinds of principles, we will have better governance, we will have better relationships, we will have less negative kinds of campaigning that's going on, and frankly, we would have less people just plain being mean to each other. We just don't need to go there. So that's my missive for the day. So look them up, Braver Angels, and I would encourage everybody to do the Braver Angels way. And they did interview you and I because we had a disagreement, but we did it so well on the dais. They're like, we gotta talk to how you guys do that. So, any case.
All right, thank you, Martha.
Thumbs up.
Commissioner Savas.
Right.
Yeah, just to kind of carry that theme a little bit, I am always amazed when we're in some of these forums and conversations that some of the issues that people bring to us or they use as reasons for running for the county commission or a city are sometimes things that can't be solved by cities or counties. They're more state or federal. So I always encourage, well, if you want to fix that, you need to run for state office. That's not a decision that local governments make. And, oftentimes we get questionnaires or things that pull us into those legislative arenas that we don't have any say over. And it seems to be like at times, I'm not saying a litmus test, but to me, it might tell people maybe who we are a little bit more or less, but if you have an opportunity to actually explain, as you learn more about these things, they're not simple as yes, no's, right? There's a lot of detail to that. But at the end of the day, we're nonpartisan and we do nonpartisan work, and it sometimes is an eye-opener, again, that people are, viewing it from the lens of something that of abilities or powers that we just don't have, right, regardless. But I will say it is good to have some of that energy and be able to communicate with people, understand what's going on, because people are more active, when they're knocking on doors or calling and so forth. So, but it always amazes me, and I used this story last Tuesday night before a community group as a commissioner, not as a candidate, but I used the example one time of a gentleman who ran or filed for county commissioner and happened to be at that particular CPO many, many, many years ago. And he was asked, why did you run for county commissioner? He said, well, the lines at DMV are too long, and I'm going to fix that as a county commissioner. And so case in point, I agree that the lines of DMV sometimes are too long, but there's not a darn thing I can do about that other than, tell ODOT or the state legislature, geez, maybe we could throw more money at the DMV lines or so forth. So I'll end there, Chair. I yield back.
All right, Commissioner West.
Yeah, I'll be super quick, and then I have to jet because I'm already late to get to my next appointment. But our seats are nonpartisan for a reason, and we're on everyone's ballot for a reason. And when you look, we're not beholden to any party and the pressures of any party, Republicans, Democrats, or working families, or Green Party, or whatever party you belong to. We are calling balls and strikes and trying to do good local government. And the things that we do in the policies that we push should be based on merit. Are they good policies? Are they improving our local community? Are they filling the potholes as we talk about? Are they solving local problems? And a lot of the things that we all live with in the community as neighbors, they're not partisan issues. And so you want free-thinking, independent people to be able to do that can not have to worry about those outside political pressures, and allows us to do good local work as neighbors together. I think that this board is very committed to that. It's been a very stable board. It's the best board I've ever served on with my colleagues, and we can disagree professionally, and then we can also come together and find that common ground and move forward in a way that's mature and sensible, and that I think has the respect of the majority of Clackamas County residents. I don't think you can ask for a better board that's capable of doing it. That's the goal. I think there's many examples where this board has been able to rise to that occasion, even when the topic is hard and difficult and the conversations are often heated. This board has been able to have the right tone and the right way to move forward. And so it has been an honor to work with Better Angels with Commissioner Schrader. They came up to me in Lake Oswego, me and you, and they remembered us and said, I was at that meeting at the library, and people were responding to that because they want less polarization in their daily politics. It's just become so polarized. So I'll leave it at that and be brief, Chair. Busy day. I plan on being in Stafford tonight too. I'm going to log on. I have that on my calendar to be at the Stafford meeting tonight, also the Hamlet meeting. And then with that, I hope you guys all have a great and productive day, and I got to go. We'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Commissioner Helm.
I'm not going to talk politics right now.
I know,
It's like,
I know.
okay, we've had our fill. So Friday evening, I attended the CASA's annual gala. Court-appointed special advocates, for those of you who are not familiar, they are volunteer representatives who attend court sessions with adolescents who don't have anyone else to represent them. So it was fun. Derby to Dreams was the theme, so there was a lot of hats and a lot of bow ties and some very well-dressed people there, and mint juleps, too. It's their signature drink. Saturday, I attended the PGE 2026 Wildfire Ready Open House at the Malala City Hall. That was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, that
good.
would've been great.
I went early, and there was not a lot of people there yet. Probably they were up getting their chores done before they went. I would love to hear what their attendance was like. But one of the, I had to go up. I knew what most of the booths were for, but there was one called Upstream Access that I had never heard of. And it's for people with disabilities. And collective resilience. So they work with people with disabilities on emergency preparedness because they do have special needs.
Right.
When we're in the get ready, get set, go categories. So I encourage people to go online and look up upstreamaccess.org. Really great group of people. They talked to me for quite a while, and because I'd never heard of them. The other one I want to mention too is the Clackamas County VOAD, which is the Voluntary Organizations Active in Disasters. That is not part of Clackamas County, our Clackamas County, but it is Clackamas County name. They're also very active in helping people during disasters. So there's a lot of really good information at this open house, and I want to thank the Clackamas County staff that was there representing us. I had some nice chats with them as well. So having gone through this and been in the get set position before, it's no fun, and it's really good to know what to do when we're in that situation. So that's it. Chair, back to you.
All right. Just quickly, I wanted to highlight just a couple meetings that I had, and that was with Emily Klepper, myself, and Tony with 4D Recovery, and Pam with the Recovery High School. And obviously, 4D Recovery had a fire. It looks like a transient had set the building on fire. So they are struggling trying to get that up. They do provide a lot of services for adolescents in our county, and are in need of money, which I'll talk to Gary about, which I did explain. We're having a very difficult budget a year, and also followed up with Patricia Torrenson, again with Malala Community Center, who is an amazing lady, and had further conversation with her about kind of their struggles out there, and maybe there's some coordination things we might be able to do. So I wanted to talk about that. And the very other person I met with, and that was Patty Sears again with the Bloomin' Boutique, and she found a building. They provide a lot of resources to kids, and that's one of their big struggles, and also kind of struggling financially with trying to find a place. It's 100% volunteer. It's a 501c3. They make no money on it and provide a lot of resources to kids. And so seniors and children, it sounds like, are at dire needs, unfortunately. So want to bring some stuff forward, have further discussion about that another time. So that is it for today. And Gary, I want to just give you a chance. Is there anything else you want to say, Gary?
No, you're done for this morning, but you'll be back at 1:30 p.m. for
Right.
policy sessions.
All right, so this is going to conclude our administrative issues and updates. I want to thank everyone for joining us. And again, we'll be back here at 1:30. Thanks. Well, welcome back, everyone, to this afternoon session of our policy session on May 12th, 2026. County Administrator Gary Schmidt, would you do us a favor and call the roll for us?
Yes, Chair. Roll call. Commissioner Savas.
Present.
Commissioner Helm.
Here.
Commissioner Schrader.
Here.
Chair Roberts.
Here, and thank you, Gary. You want to introduce our first session today?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This session is the Willamette Falls Locks Authority presentation and funding request. Kicking it off will be Laura Edmonds, who's Economic Development Manager at the county, and then we have our guest, Reed Wagner, who's the Executive Director of the Willamette Falls Locks Authority, and Councilor Christine Lewis, Metro Councilor, who is Chair of the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. Laura, would you please kick it off?
I would love to. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. Laura Edmonds, Manager of the Office of Economic Development. And we're here today with our guests, and Gary just introduced them, but I'll do it again just in case. Reed Wagner, Executive Director of Willamette Falls Locks Authority, and Metro Councilor Christine Lewis. Thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you and hear from you today. So the request today is board consideration of a $120,000 funding request to support continued operations at the Willamette Falls Locks Authority. As you recall, June of '21, the Oregon Legislature passed House Bill 2564 establishing the Locks Authority to establish ownership, oversight, and management of the Willamette Falls Locks project. The mission was to repair, maintain, upgrade, and operate the locks and associated properties and facilities for commercial, transportation, recreational, cultural, historic, heritage, and tourism purposes. In the fall of 2021, the Clackamas Board of Commissioners appropriated $120,000 in funding distributed over a 3-year period of time for $40,000 each year to support the Locks Authority. Funding was through the Economic Development Oregon State Lottery dollars. No general funds were involved. The Locks Authority today will provide you with a general overview of their current project status and request consideration for the second round of funding in the amount of $120,000. So I'll turn it over to our guest, Reed.
Great, thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that also in the audience, we have other authority members, David Pendleton, Westland Council President Mary Baumgardner, and Sandy Carter, have all been a huge part of getting us to where we are today. Thought I'd start out with a little bit about the mission of the authority because it's, I think, closely aligned with some of the goals of Clackamas County and economic development. And it's to establish ownership, oversight, and management of the Willamette Falls Locks project. So it has been in the arms of the Army Corps of Engineers for over 100 years. It was decommissioned in 2011. And the community has wanted to bring these locks back and in order. The mission is to enhance the economic vitality of Oregon through facilitating the resiliency and navigability of the Willamette River, to repair, maintain, upgrade, and operate the Willamette Falls Locks project and associated properties and facilities for commercial, transportation, recreational, cultural, historic, heritage, and tourism purposes, and returning the locks to operational status. I think it's important to point out that the locks sit between the Westland waterfront and Moores Island. So the real estate includes the walkway next to the locks. It includes the sidewalk. It includes the administrative building that the Army Corps of Engineers used for years, a park, and an old museum. So if you can imagine a couple years from now, when the multiple projects along the falls open up, this area will be the landing spot on the west side of the river for public access, for both boaters and non-boaters, for a place to picnic, a place to learn about the area, and a place to visit the falls from the west side. Next, please. So to date, one of the things we had to do is get a new governance structure in place. So we were developed by the 2021 legislature with no governance in place. So it took a couple years for the governor to appoint the board members. And then we had to do a lot of really basic things like create the first budget, put governing documents together, go through our first auditing process. You can't receive money from the state or the federal government before you put all these building blocks in place. And it's not the fun part, some would say. Some like me, who is a governance nerd, find it absolutely fun. But it's what's necessary in order to get the multiple layers of funding to get this project moving throughout the process. We've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers on the transfer. And what that means to date now is about them getting all their documents in order. The Army Corps of Engineers doesn't transfer property or water infrastructure to a community without intense documentation. So we've been working with them on the 4 parts of a disposal report, including the history, the real estate and property, NEPA and cultural, and the title and deeds themselves. They've also been working with, and we've been coordinating with coordinating with them on the seismic upgrades that they agreed to do in WRDA before they transferred over. So for the last, I'd say about 15 years, they've spent about $14 million getting the locks ready to transfer over. We've broadened the locks coalition and secured 15 public and private funding partners. So that's private partners, multiple tribes are also part of that funding membership. And we've recently hired an environmental firm and started initial plans for inspection and construction. I should say they're an environmental engineering firm. We will be down at the locks this Friday with people that ran and maintained these locks for decades and decades before they closed. So we are right at the point of getting the construction up and running, and that's an exciting time. We're moving from those nerdy governance building blocks to actually getting the locks to the point where they're operating. So over the next 12 months, and I say that because our goal and the Corps' goal is to have the real estate transferred April of 2027. We want to further the locks partnership. We want to manage the capital improvements. We want to discover environmental conditions, ESA, threatened species protection, and develop process for community interests. We need to develop our permanent funding plan. We have some things in place. So we're talking with state departments about some fees that go onto marine vessels or things of that nature that can continue to fund the operations for the long term. We'll also be charging fees for different types of operation through the lock system. We need to protect and maintain core historic register protection and sensitive cultural and architectural resources. And we got to get these locks operational, because when you think about the multiple projects in that area, for it really to become this destination where not only locals, but people from out of town come to visit, these projects need to work together. The locks create that movement on the waterway. I should point out, too, that this next year is pretty critical, and we're going to reach out to our partners like Clackamas County. We've been working with the District Office of the Corps of Engineers. They do great work. Now, all that paperwork is moving out of the district, needs to go to division at the regional level and to headquarters. It also has to include the U.S. Department of Justice and the Assistant Secretary of the Army's office. And I didn't point out, we're supported by one half contracted FTE. That's me. So this is not an easy lift, but it must be done in order to get this project moving forward. So we're going to be asking for the partnership to work together on that. I want to talk a little bit about community and economic benefits, unless you'd like to do that.
Keep going. You're doing great.
So as I mentioned briefly, part of this project is to contribute to the region's resilience and emergency preparedness. In the case of infrastructure not working in other parts of the area, imagine a cascade type of earthquake, this builds that resiliency in. It enhances revitalization opportunities for riverfront cities. Think of West Lynn, Oregon City, Camas, Milwaukee, Wilsonville, promoting collaborative economic development through historical tourism and outdoor recreational opportunities, including access to the portion of the Landfall State Heritage Area. Reducing greenhouse gases. So over time, how can new built infrastructure by the commercial industrial organizations be able to manage into a healthier way to move goods up and down the river? And then connect Willamette Valley towns, offering recreational and expert. So creating a destination of those 12 months a year versus just the boaters that would go through the locks back before 2011 when they were decommissioned. So we were just at a really great event called Reimagine the River. And it connected all the river projects up and down the river from about the falls to the Albina Trust focused neighborhood in North and Northeast Portland, and how important it was to connect these communities. Well, this Friday, we're going to be down with the Willamette Water Trail folks in Springfield, Oregon, where they care that this area is opened up and this whole trail system is connected along the Willamette River. So it is very important for the local communities, but it's also important for the communities across the state. You're ahead of me. Thank you. Investments so far. As I mentioned, the Corps since 2009 has invested $14 million. The locals, like yourself, with first round of funding, contributed $750,000. The Oregon legislature has committed $7.25 million. We are in the process of getting access to the area so we can start that construction and using those funds. And we're going to ask for a second portion in the 2027 legislature for $11.4 million. The benefits to this, and this is based on an Eco Northwest study from, I think it was 2018, up to $49 million in transportation benefits, recreation benefits up to $50 million, truck and trips removed from the Portland area roads between 80,000 and 220,000, and metric tons of CO2 reduced 11,000 to 32,000. Now, once again, this was 2018. We don't have the luxury to upgrade some of these and update some of these reports, but we rely on these to give us some kind of sense of what the economic impact will be. We do not have an ask from the federal government for more money right now. The way this was established back in 2018 originally, and then again in 2020 during the WRDA Act, was it was going to be a transfer of real estate as long as the Corps did what they need to do. We are finding deferred maintenance. So there is a likelihood that we could be asking our federal partners for some deferred maintenance funding that helps us and the community maintain these locks for the longer term. So next slide, please. Just as a reminder, the interaction between the partners in 2022, I think it was John Williams, current city manager Wes Lynn, who had worked with many people from your organization on this project, determined that to get us to the point construction was done, we would need operations funding of about $1.75 million. That's about $350,000 a year. That raised just about $795,000 with a gap of about $1 million. We are coming back with this fundraising round, not with the full $1 million ask, because we've been able to identify more money, bring on more partners, but something similar to that first round ask. And that's why our ask is similar to the round that you contributed the first time of $120,000. I want to reiterate, we wouldn't have got to this point without the partnership. And we won't get to the point of construction being completed without this partnership. Once that's done, then we can look into establishing the fees and establishing some type of other types of state support moving forward. But we really appreciate everything so far that this partnership has contributed. On this last slide, I just give you an idea of where we are financially, with the blue line being our expenses so far. It was estimated in 2022 that it would be $350,000 a year. We've kept that on average below $300,000 a year. Not many organizations can say they've done that while the economy has changed so much in the last few years. But you'll see that green area. That's the area that we are trying to fund moving forward so that we can get to the point in 29-30 where the locks are operational on their own and they're able to rely on their own funding and other sorts of funding moving forward. And with that, Councilor Lewis, Chair Lewis, if you have anything else.
Sure, thank you so much. I just want to reiterate that the ask here today is for funding that helps us stay operational as an organization. The bar chart was not inclusive of the $7 million that is in a capital repair and capital asset fund, so separate budget in terms of what we're working with. we have to make sure that we're continuing to have a part-time administrator, a lawyer, a good engineering firm so that we can keep pushing forward to make the repairs. And then it is our hope that when we are fully operational, fees and relationships with the boating community will not only keep us operational, but we are going to be really intent on having a good repair fund so that we're not in the point where we're coming to the state and to all the partners with deferred maintenance. We always want to be on top of that because we've seen what 10 years of shutdown can do for these locks. So we are trying to be good stewards, both of this asset, but also of our organization. Commissioner Schrader, you were on the commission when the authority was recommended.
Right.
And I remember you called me, it was September of 21.
It's been that long ago.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say it's been that long. You called and you said you should put your name forward. Clackamas County is invested. We'd like Metro to be invested as well. I said, well, you know, I'm put my toe in the water with the commission. I'll hop in with both feet. And I really have, because the community really finds these locks to be a treasure. They're not just an asset of our heart, but when you look at the economic impact, and you can start to see it as a treasure using the brain as well. So we can't keep going without partners doubling down on what they've done before. I'm asking Metro to do that. We've asked all of the cities to do that again. We've found new partners. We found private folks willing to get engaged. Hope Clackamas County will join us.
Right. I think it's time for questions. We might have a few up here. Commissioner Savas has one to start off.
Yeah, well, first of all, when I first came on the commission is when the plant closed. And that property became, well, actually, that was across the way. So the falls being part of this has been a, asset. I can say that in 2010, I think I hired the last paddle boat that went through the locks in 2010. So it's an experience that I would encourage anyone to for recreational, but it was still a great opportunity to go from the lower portion to the upper portion and upstream. So I have I guess a personal connection, and I can see the value, especially when we get to the point of commerce, knowing that there's commerce opportunities. It's just taken so long to get here. And, I know we've all made trips with Washington, D.C., the Corps of Engineers, and the Pentagon, trying to get this pushed through all these years. And, we're inching along. It really is the turtle story, I think, here. So what is the project cost to actually do this last phase? Not sure I heard what the actual cost is going to be.
You mind?
Go for it.
So the construction project cost is running at about $18.5 million, and we have $7.25 million set aside. That was originally assumed to be the first half of the state funding when it was estimated, and I think, and I'm looking over at your county administrator because he might have a better idea, I think it was about 2018, 2019 when they made that estimate. And certainly the cost of doing infrastructure and in-water work has gone up since then. So it went up from a $14.5 million construction cost to about an $18 million construction cost. We have $7.25 million set aside. We can still start with that $7.25 million and get basic construction going so that they can be run. But they do over time need to have upgrades done, and that's what that second tranche of money would be.
So did you say earlier on 18 to 25?
18.5 million
Oh,
is the total
18.5, okay, I
cost,
misheard,
yeah.
okay. So getting to the authority and the revenue stream, do we think that the commerce going through there will keep the authority flush economically, fiscally?
I believe that it will. I think some of it will be what is the demand of the community for how often it's open and how often they want to use it. Is it open 6 months a year, 3 days a week, or is it open 10 months a year, 7 days a week? And we need to set our operational goals as far as the revenue we bring in from that usage with how much they want it open. I do think that there is statewide interest in this. So I'm hoping that we can come up with some type of supplement from our statewide partners. And certainly we're still in those conversations. They haven't been shut down and they've been going positive so far.
All right, last question. Reading the packet, we appropriated 120,000 before, 40,000 a year for 3 years. Is that the same ask today for another 3 years, or is it a lump sum 120?
It does not need to be a lump sum of 120. So I think this represents the total ask. And if it was 40 a year, as it's been, we can manage into that from a cash flow perspective.
Okay, Chair, yield back.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner West.
Are there any jurisdictions that are not continuing with their support on the project that traditionally have been?
We've not heard no for an answer from everybody, from anybody, and everybody's going through their budget process, so
Right.
nobody's given us definitive.
Yeah.
But we're getting mild green lights from everybody.
Okay, perfect. And then what is the total amount that Clackamas County, since it's begun to engage in this agreement, paid out over time?
So I used to work on this when I was your Public and Government Affairs Director, and we did this. Approximately $500,000 over the last 16 years, Clackamas County has given through direct funding or in-kind contributions, mostly through our lobbying efforts that we paid for on behalf of, at the time, the Willamette Falls Locks Working Group, before it became a state commission. So we've done a lot of investment, because this is very important to you, commissioners. But we've done a lot of investment over the last 15, 16 years.
Gary, where does the current funding come from directly? It's not general fund, I'm guessing.
No, the last award, as Laura mentioned, came from Oregon lottery dollars that we receive here at the county. And if you were to do this again, that's where I'd suggest you take it from again, lottery dollars.
And then beyond this, is this just every 3 years we have this conversation, or is there an end point where it sunsets, or is this in perpetuity?
My hope is that the day that we break the champagne bottle on the gate, that is when we quit coming for these numbers.
It's got to a self-sufficient point.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for answering my questions.
Martha, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I had a conversation with Greg Leo the other day and the trust over there. I think you're involved over
I wear a
in that.
lot of hats.
You wear a
yes.
lot of hats,
Yeah.
so you're there with those meetings, but they're also starting to do, actually, I was going to bring this up under issues. They're not asking for financial support other than they would like to get that Willamette Falls Heritage area all along the river. They're starting to look at legislation again, and they asked me, I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring it up, but potentially to have it on our legislative agenda for some of our federal issues. We've done it before, trying to get it designated as a historic, kind of byway has been one of their key pieces. So I think this would dovetail very nicely into those efforts at the same time. But as you said, we're going to have to go through our budget process, too, and then, see where that leads us. So,
Yeah, and, Commissioner Helm, go ahead.
Just a real quick question for Gary more than anything. If we were to use lottery dollars, would we be taking those lottery dollars from another program?
Yes, you would.
Thank you.
Kind of want to talk about what that impact be.
Yeah.
So one of the things I just want to say is, first of all, I want to thank all of you for being here today and your incredible work on this important effort. I really do believe it's a wonderful economic driver, and it is really something for the future that needs done. And knowing that there's a lot of heavy equipment, barges and tugs that really oftentimes need to get on that upper Willamette, I will just tell you right now, if we had another flood like in 1996, where it was critical for pile drivers, huge equipment like that, we'd be in a real hurt. And it would be devastating to a lot of people that lived on that area. Wilsonville Concrete and many others used to use it all the time, and I just really see it as a long-term important need. And a lot of you deserve a big pat on the back for your diligence. We're plugging along, and want to say thank you. I think that right now, we don't need a motion. We're doing Christine, just what you said. We're actually in the midst of budget coming up here real quick, and I think it's perfect timing to kind of have you come before us, so it's kind of top of mind, and I'm sure there'll be more discussions about it. So I think, Gary, did you want to add anything else?
Yes, I'd say right now you're getting a flashing yellow light, which is not no, it's not yes, but staff, you're about to direct me, I know, to look into options of how this could work. If we did do it, I'd probably say do it in phases, not all at once. So maybe it's 40 or 50 for year one, and we can revisit it after that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll find a few million laying around during budget week, right? Who knows?
Who do we call?
Yeah, so, once again, thank you so much for all your time and hard work on this. And I have to say, I had the great opportunity, you gave us a tour through it, and it is pretty fascinating. To really see that open up again is going to be just a great day for the entire community. So thank you again, and
Yeah, and I would like to say, I'm sorry to mean.
No, you're fine, Marty. Go ahead. I'll let you go.
It's a legacy project, like I said. This has been kind of ongoing since 2003, when Vern Duncan was first here to pull people
Oh,
together
wow.
to talk about that. Oh, yeah, this is like the long haul. And then there was all the issues working with the, the, I want to say the Guard, but I know it's not the Guard, right? But, the
Corps of
the lots,
Engineers.
the Corps of Engineers folks, because they're Byzantine, and they change, they change staff every 2 or 3 years, so we get so far, and then we'd have to loop back again. It would be good to see if we can bring this to fruition finally, after all these years. But as I said, we're going to have to really look and see what our budget will be able to handle. So I'd agree with you, Gary. That was yellow light.
I think you said flashing yellow light.
Flashing yellow light. Flashing
think it was
yellow
solid.
light. There we go. Yield. Okay. I'm glad you got it on our radar screen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for hearing it. And, Commissioner, as you were saying, the federal government managed the locks very specifically with the aim of freight passage.
Yep.
We're obviously still very much connected to the freight community, but we've been very lucky to have enthusiasm from the tourist industry in the state and nationally. And so I do think that brings some different dynamics into play about how we're going to
That's
build
good how
and
to do it.
manage. And
Yeah.
hopefully it'll add a level of sustainability.
Especially if that heritage area finally gets
Yeah,
through. That would be.
thank you.
All right, with that, we'll go ahead and conclude our public meeting for the day, and thank you, everyone. We're adjourned, and we're running right into another meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.